As artists, we've all asked ourselves, what's the one thing I can make that truly fuels me? The thing that gives new inspiration, that makes me feel alive. For us, we realized it wasn't just about the work, it's about connection. That spark when you see yourself in someone else's struggle, someone else's rebellion. This podcast is our active rebellion against the silence of creating alone. We hit record and said, just publish. At its core, Rebel Artists Through Time is about building a community of creators, past and present. We dive into the lives of history's rebels, artists, filmmakers, musicians, and writers, because their echoes are still with us. Their stories fuel ours. And as we tell them, we shine a light forward toward the new voices emerging today. It's our way of saying, you're not alone in the struggle. You're part of the lineage of legends. And if you've ever felt restless, misunderstood, or on fire with an idea you just couldn't put down, you're already one of us. This is Rebel Artists Through Time. Hi everyone. You're about to hear a long-form conversation with Sebastian, one of my closest friends, a working musician, songwriter, and someone I've shared years of music, art, and late-night conversations with. Think of this episode as a window into the kind of conversations that started this podcast in the first place. They were unpolished, curious, and centered on what art does to us when we really listen. Here's our conversation on Pink Floyd. Let's get into it. I'll jump off. I'll get into a story of how I found them. It was actually, it wasn't until I was like a teenager or just approaching high school. Like I was raised on like classic rock from the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, listening to radio stations playing all the old classics. But what a lot of those radio stations, they never played that much Pink Floyd. They always played their radio hits, the very few ones they have. But yeah, I didn't discover Pink Floyd till much later. It was I was staying at my uncle's place, and he loves concert DVDs. My uncle had the DVD for Pink Floyd's Pulse concert, which I think was their last big final show on their Division Bell tour. I can't remember if I picked it to put it on or he picked it, because I had told him how much I really like rock music, and then he just said, oh, you'll probably like these guys. And I think I got into Another Brick in the Wall Part 1, where it starts off with that it's like this quiet, like, I don't know if that's the lead guitar or a bass guitar that makes that sound, but I just kind of loved how it was just this building anticipation. And it's like got this very progressive psychedelic feel. And then as soon as it breaks into, we don't need no education, I was just like, who are these guys?
Yeah.
Because like, I was like, oh, it's Pink Floyd that does this song? I've heard this one before. And then that's where the rabbit hole started. And I opened up my phone and quickly like looked up, oh, what other songs have they done that I know? And then I obviously found Wish You Were Here. That was, I think, the one that is their most popular or most well-known.
Yeah. It's probably like Wish You Were Here and Another Brick in the Wall, right?
The other one, which is, I know your favorite Floyd song, is Learning to Fly.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Yeah, so basically I discovered them when I was an early teenager, and they'd kind of just usurped the throne of my favorite rock band ever, and they've never been dethroned since.
Yeah, and I discovered them through you, right?
I know, I was like, I was harassing you to listen to more Pink Floyd.
Yeah, I remember we used to hang out in Toronto, and you showed me Pink Floyd for the first time then. And then I think at that time I didn't appreciate them as much, and then I really got into Learning to Fly because I was leaving Canada, and I was kind of like starting a new life. And I really loved that whole thing, like it really felt like I was learning to go out, on my own, do my own thing instead of fly. So I was listening to it as the plane was taking off.
It almost became like your musical theme for this next chapter in your life.
Yeah, that's right. And then it was like that. So I just listened to that one a lot. And then I think when I was in Paris first, I was um one night I was really kind of tired and I didn't want to go out. And so I thought, Dark Side of the Moon, I'd been avoiding for some reason. That was like my intro to it because I'd only been listening to Learning to Fly, like that was it. And then I just I was staying in a hostel and I just lay in bed and I listened to Dark Side of the Moon and it was like, it blew me away. It took me on a journey. And then after that, I started to check out all their other stuff and then I just gradually fell more and more in love with them. For me, it was kind of a slow thing. But
For me, it
yeah,
was I was just kind of taken aback by they're so very much in their own lane. That's why I guess why it feels so appropriate to talk about them on
yeah,
this
yeah.
podcast, Rebel Artists Through Time, because they were just as big, if not bigger, than some of their contemporaries. Like Zeppelin. They were just. It felt like their songwriting and their artistry was just so off the beaten path and in their own lane. Like no one had their kind of sound, and there was a lot of people afterwards that tried to replicate that Pink Floyd sound, where it's much more dark, deep synth and electronic, but yet you have these like amazing guitar solos from David Gilmour, who I think is one of the greatest guitar players of all time. Yeah, I just find David Gilmour his solos are very moving.
Yeah, they're very understated. Yeah, I mean, I find they blow me away musically, I have to say. And I think one of the best ways I heard it put by somebody was I mean, it might have been you actually. I can't remember who it was who said it, but it's like rock music that was composed by classical musicians, you know? It's like really kind of, and it's really amazing because for me, what blows me away about them is that they have this kind of almost meditative sound. So it sounds like they're doing it just naturally, like off the cuff. Like everything's very deliberate, but the way that it's delivered sounds like it sounds like they're on the journey too, which is, I don't know how they do that.
All of
I mean, as a
this
music,
all of this at the detriment of their marketability as songwriters or as a band. Because like
yeah, which gives me a lot of respect for them,
all
really.
their songs are too long to be put on to be on the radio.
Their most conventional album was what is, Obscured by Clouds, right? I think is probably the one that's the more. It has all the
Which is
songs
saying
are
a
like.
lot. Which is saying a lot because even that one is quite experimental.
Do you know how they began? What was their first album, the Piper one,
Yeah,
right?
their first official release as Pink Floyd was "Piper at the Gates of Dawn," and I'm not too familiar with a lot of their early days, especially the Sid Barrett days.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
Pink Floyd really became Pink Floyd around metal, and of course Dark Side. That's when they really
Yeah,
became super massive.
yeah.
And arguably their best music. Their best music is like metal
Yeah.
onwards.
I did do a deep dive into them a while back and just kind of listened to all of them going up through,
Mm-hmm.
ending up at Division
They
Bell.
had to do a lot of experimentation before they really found their
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
What do
There
you
you are.
what do you think of Adam or Heart Mother? Because that's probably the most famous of their earlier albums.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of it. I think it didn't like you said, it didn't stick. Like I listened to it, I don't remember any of it. The only thing I remember was like
It's
is
the album cover with the cow. That's the
yeah,
most memorable
the
part.
cow, and I remember what's his name's Psychedelic Breakfast.
Alan's Psychedelic Breakfast, which is
That's
a whopping like 13-minute track ending, and Adam Heartmother is like 23 minutes. It's just like,
yeah,
who the heck writes rock music to be this long?
yeah. It's insane. It's a bit insane.
Yeah.
And then so Sid Barrett was non-Dark Side, right?
Yeah, Sid Barrett left the band,
Yeah, right.
and he kind of like had maybe not so much a falling out with the band, but they kind of lost contact with him for a long, long time.
Yeah, and then he showed up later, right? They didn't recognize him.
Yeah, he was like severely overweight like years later.
Hmm.
Um, but they still paid tribute to Sid Barrett, their friend, which is that book, the book ending 9-part, I call it a rock symphony, It's
Mm.
of Shine on You Crazy Diamond that bookends
Yeah.
Wish You Were
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah. Right.
I think both of them together are like 25 minutes long, but they span multiple genres. Um, I don't know. I just love like the sounds and the big journey that the those two tracks take you on. And it's a tribute to Sid because they snuck Sid in the name of Shine You Diamond because his name was Sid, SYD.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really amazing track, that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very emotional.
hmm I especially love the way it opens. It has this soft, slow opening with oh gosh, Richard Wright on the keys. It almost sounds symphonic,
Yeah.
like a Vangelis album or like the opening of Blade Runner.
Yeah, right.
And then you just
Yeah.
hear David Gilmour just like playing a few notes on the guitar, and it sounds amazing,
It does. Yeah,
especially
it's
on
incredible.
big speakers.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you have to listen to Pink Floyd on big speakers, that's for sure.
But yeah, 1973 was Dark Side of the Moon, which I think famously held a spot on like the top sales record charts for something like 14 years straight, which
Really?
apparently hasn't really was only broken by Michael Jackson's Thriller. Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
They weren't like consistently at number 1, but they were always on the list, even if they were
Yeah,
like
right.
lower down for just like over a decade straight, which is mind-blowing to me.
It is mind-blowing, yeah. They're a very they're a really special band, you know? Like, it's kind of like I don't know of anybody else. And you can't replicate them, right? They're just kind of because there's something really magical going on with what they do.
I like what you said
Yeah.
earlier, how they have that meditative tone to their
Yeah.
music.
The first album I was into by them was actually The Endless River, which is sort of because I really liked it for the meditative side of it.
Yeah,
That
yeah. It's like
yeah,
there's
I
almost like
love
no vocals on it aside for one track. They didn't even bother giving a lot of the songs a name. It's just called Side A Part 1, Side A Part 2. It just
yeah,
it's a lot
right.
of it's definitely clearly unreleased songs.
Yeah, which I imagine at the time would have been pretty disappointing, but I mean, I really like it.
I
Yeah,
love putting on headphones, lying down, and just closing my eyes and just getting transported. You can really do that with a lot of Floyd music.
you can, especially that one. I think I like it so much because of that.
What I want to bring up, which was astounding to me at the time, because I hadn't, or at least when I first discovered Floyd as a teenager, was their songs don't have cuts in between, and it's
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that
yeah.
it's and almost all of their albums do this from like metal onwards, where it's meant to you're clearly meant to put the record in and just let it run all the way through.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. The Beatles started a lot of this stuff. Like the Beatles started track recording because like before the Beatles, everyone just recorded in the studio. There wasn't this like these, whereas the Beatles would put multiple things on one track and do loops and all this other stuff.
hmm
And it was after the Beatles that we started getting these track things like you have in Floyd and things like that. So that was 1967 was Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, which was the first one that did that. It was and that was like the opening to that kind of world.
hmm That was when the
Yeah,
Beatles had went their experimental ways.
yeah. But I think you're right though that like they started that, but then the Floyd perfects that kind of medium. And it is amazing that it's one of the things I find amazing about it too. And it keeps you in the zone. It keeps you there.
Yeah, it keeps you
Yeah.
there.
And I know that with Dark Side, it just keeps you in this, and it seamlessly drags you somewhere else. I mean, I like went places, you know. I wasn't even high. I went on a journey. I still remember.
I admittedly had a high trip once with Dark Side.
What was that like?
I got a little too high once, and my coping mechanism was to lie down for a bit, put in some headphones, and listen to Dark Side, and I totally transcended. it's almost kind of scary because a lot of the sounds and like topics and themes of Dark Side aren't the most pleasant. It's a contrast to their more like meditative synth sounds that came later.
Mm.
You know, like the ringing alarm clock of time, or
Yeah, right.
the awkward 7/4 time of money. I can't think of
Yeah,
any other rock song that's in 7/4
yeah,
time. For those who don't know, most songs are written in, was it 4/4 time or 2/4 time?
yeah, or 3/4. Yeah,
But like money is just like totally like breaks that barrier and just does like, oh, we're just gonna do 7 beats.
yeah. And it sounds amazing. And then they do that break in the middle where they go into like 4/4
Yeah, they change it
blues
up like
kind of
midway
thing.
through.
Yeah, and then they come back to it. I actually didn't. I remember. I still don't know what a lot of the songs are about because for me, it was more the musical experience that took me somewhere.
Yeah, Dark Side is
Yeah.
is about a lot of things. I think the best description I ever heard of Dark Side is that it's like oh god, I'm paraphrasing, but it's taking like all, can you go insane from normal everyday adult life?
Oh, right.
Cuz there's a lot of a like medical asylum lyrics at the end where the lunatics are in my head, the
Yeah, right.
lunatics are in the hall, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
talking about all these things that are very prevalent in like adult life, time, dealing with like more our bitter mortality, or money, being in the rat race to make money, or
Yeah, and there's that whole like us and them thing.
us, that, yeah, like segregation, or war. There's a lot going on in Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah. Do you remember any of the visualization you had when you were listening to that?
um no, it was no, I don't quite remember. Why, do you have something? Did you see something significant?
I saw things that were, like I said, I wasn't really listening to the lyrics, but it was like I just allowed whatever was happening musically to send me somewhere. And there was like I was it's really bizarre and it sounds strange because I've been high, and I wasn't high for this occasion, but it was so vivid.
It
Like I
felt
was
like it.
somewhere else in my mind's eye. And I remember there's that one with the woman singing.
Yeah, great. It's called the Great Gig in the Sky. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and in that I was in a boat. And then there was a woman who was like holding me, almost like a guardian angel type thing. And then I had to leave them and go. And then I ended up in a club somewhere for money. And then I was like, I remember this vividly. I was like in this club, and then it was like really kind of dark and grungy and stuff. And then dancing with this beautiful woman. And then we walked out into the rain for us and them. And I saw like,
us,
yeah. And then
and them.
when the big thing happens, like when the big like kind of chorus happens, it was like watching whales breaking out of the
Oh,
on the horizon.
okay.
It was really wild. Like I mean, I sound like a crazy person talking about it, but I was just allowing. I think it might have been the first time I'd ever done that, where
Mhm.
you kind of just allow your imagination to be stimulated by the music,
Mhm.
and then yeah, and I remember there's one at the end. I think it's Dark Side. I'll see you on the dark side of the moon. I can't remember which it is. Where I had this vision of people leaving Earth.
Oh,
Like
wow.
kind of.
Okay. I
Yeah,
think
yeah, I was.
that's probably like the double ending of Brain Damage and Eclipse.
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
Yes, yeah, that's right. That was it. So yeah, I mean, I sound like a crazy person, but that I went on this whole thing,
I mean, hey, we
and
each have our own. I think I don't think this is what I saw when I had my trip with Darkseid, but I always had like the imagery, particularly for the Great Gig of the Sky, the one with the woman singing. I always
yeah,
pictured that being. Do you know the Kubrick movie Doctor Strangelove?
yeah, of course, yeah,
And how it ends with all like the bombs going off to that
yeah,
song, "We'll Meet Again." I always
yeah.
thought like that. Great Gig, Pink Floyd's Great Gig in the Sky would also be perfect for that.
Yeah,
I always
that's right.
when I listened
Yeah.
to it, it almost felt like a haunting crying out of this like woman crying out for all the atrocities happening in the world. So those are the images that I saw, just this like overflowing montage of human suffering, and that this woman is just crying out in pain for of the earth and oh the humanity.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's Roger Waters' thing, right? Like he really likes
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he's really into that. I remember that.
Roger was responsible for a lot of the thematic lyric writing of Pink Floyd. But to quickly wrap up Dark Side, do you know about the cult of the Dark Side of Oz?
Is there the people who time like that listen to Pink Dark Side at the same time as watching Wizard of Oz?
You got it.
Yeah, so they say it syncs up. Is it? Have you tried it?
I've never tried it, but I had a friend who they were doing it like a special like one of his local theaters to watch Wizard of Oz or The Dark Side of Oz. Because like, which is strange because it plays the album twice because the movie is obviously longer than the album. And he says like, dude, it was so weird how much it's synced up.
Really?
Yeah, I haven't done it myself, but I'd be fascinated to do it one day.
And especially if it's twice.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah,
I
I
wonder
gotta
where
check.
the parts of money sync up. I
Yeah,
imagine money
that's
plays the second time when they get to the Emerald City.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure
What
that's what it
plays
is.
over Munchkin Land, I wonder.
Hmm. Yeah,
Anyway.
yeah. I think I think it's my favorite because I had that experience with it.
Hmm.
But for me, it's like Dark Side's kind of sacred. Like I can't just listen to it. The only song that I just listen to, I mean, actually, that's not true. I listen to Us and Them and I listen to Money, but none of the others. It's like I can only listen to the others if I listen to the whole thing.
Yeah. It's kind of like Lord of the Rings. Like, you can't just willy-nilly watch one
Yeah.
of them. You have to
No, you
watch
can't.
all
You gotta,
three
you
now.
gotta go through them. Yeah.
It's the exact same thing with Darkseid. You have to start from the beginning and get to the end.
It's a wild ride. I mean, I don't know how they made that thing. It's like, did they really blow me away? As a musician, they really blow me away, because I just like, because I think they're really fascinating to me because it shows me that there's these different parts. Like if you're like me and you write folk songs, that's a different thing, but then it's like, just because you're a songwriter, it's like a lot, if you're a musician, there's a lot of people who come up to you and is like, well, can you play this, like, can you play Freebird or something? And then you're like, just because I'm a musician doesn't mean I know how to do that. It's kind of like asking someone if you can speak French and someone asks you, well, like, why can't you speak Chinese as well,
Right.
It's kind of like that. I think it's that kind of thing. There's like these different languages, and Floyd fascinate me because it's such a different language from me. You know, it's like I speak French and they speak Chinese. It's like it's totally different. And I don't know how they do it with that level of um, that natural way. And then Dark Side for me is like the epitome of that flow that it has, and that it's so stimulating. And I was wondering when I was listening to it, I was like, did they engineer it to be that stimulating? Did they know it was going to be that stimulating?
Do you think it was a pinnacle of all of their albums and years before of experimentation that just finally clicked and paid off?
Yes. Yeah.
They
I think
captured
so.
that. It was like that lightning in a bottle moment where the combination of years of practice and a short spout of luck.
Yeah, like when you hit that, I think that's a good way of putting that, because it's kind of like they had the capacity to do that. And then it's kind of like you unlock the capacity and then this flood comes out that's already been in there. I think that's the Dark Side thing. Right?
Has there been an album to come out since that has like to replicate that or has done that? Like in the following decades or even in present day? I'm really not sure.
I mean, there probably is, but I mean, if there is, I haven't heard it. Like, there's a lot of fantastic albums, but I have never listened to anything that's given me that experience.
Yeah.
Like, I have never hallucinated while sober to another to another album, you know? Like that's to me that's crazy. And it's like yeah, no, I don't think
It's
so.
almost like the way we talk about it, it really sounds like it's almost like a religious experience, but it is.
It is a religious experience.
This is
Yeah.
why I was
Yeah,
harassing you for so many years. Man, listen to Floyd. Man, you
yeah,
gotta
yeah.
listen
Well,
to Pink Floyd.
yeah, I know, and I'm happy I did.
Well, we
You
each
know,
find
it's
it in
like,
our own time at the right time.
it's not that far fetched, you know, because like when a lot of people have a religious experience, say in church, it's to the music, right? And music has always been this big part of the spiritual thing. Because and then classical music, like church music, is designed to evoke this beauty, the sense of the beyond, the sense of this gorgeous thing that is
It's
beyond
like
our
the
reality.
ultimate language, music.
Yeah, and
That
that's
can
the
connect
thing.
collectives across cultures, you know?
Yeah, yeah, but that's the thing for me about Floyd is that, you know, music that's designed like choral music that's designed for cathedrals
Hmm.
is meant to evoke something in your mind of something beyond. And for me, Floyd is the only non-religious band that does that.
That
You
makes
know,
you
it's like
think of the beyond. I
yeah,
love
they
the way
evoke
you put that.
something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they evoke something beyond, and you don't even know what the beyond is, but it's something. You know, they're touching it. You know, I always get this feeling with like listening to them that they're like, if you could see what we could see, you'd be blown away. You know, that's what I get the feeling of.
So, coming off of Dark Side, they followed up with not two, but three, but four bangers immediately after.
Yeah, it's one of those. Wish You Were Here was the next one,
Wish
right?
You're Here is the next one, which is my personal favorite.
It's
Um,
wonderful.
yeah.
Yeah,
Most
yeah,
almost solely because of the bookends of Shine on You Crazy Diamond. I just love it so much. And then
yeah,
it's followed
yeah,
by
yeah.
Welcome to the Machine, which is this like really grungy song about like, you know, entering this very mechanical, modernized world. And Have Cigars also kind of like grungy as well. And then
Yeah,
it's just
yeah,
like
yeah.
and then we get to Wish You Were Here, which is like one of the greatest acoustic rock songs
Mm,
ever.
yeah.
It's happy but also sad and mournful at the same time. It
It's
fits.
for me, it's like nostalgic.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
very
like
nostalgic. Makes
when
you
you're
think of the
somewhere.
past of somebody that's
Yeah,
either around, gone, or you know wherever.
yeah. That's my favorite actually on that album is Wish You Were Here. That's my favorite one. I
I
love
think it's
Shine On You.
their probably most well known song in
Yeah.
general. But anyway, they followed up um Wish You Were Here, which came out in 1975. They released Animals, which is another like just absolute banger album.
Yeah.
Aside from Dark Side, it might have the best album cover.
Yeah. It's
You
great.
know, the big
I told you I
factory
passed it.
with the pig flying.
Yeah. Yeah, because I told you I didn't have time to take a picture, but I passed it on when I was on the train in London.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, yeah. And I was looking, I was gazing out the window and I was like, holy shit, that's the factory, that's the place.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it uses these three animals to kind of talk about classism, which is kind of like
Mm.
this feels like a very similar in theme to what they were trying to do with Dark Side of the Moon. We're talking about very serious socio-cultural issues, but then with animals, it's literally using anthropomorphizing animals, you know, with classism. Like in dogs, it's talking about like the highly competitive carnivorous people that are greedy and you know attack and bite the hands of.
There's a lot of social commentary, which is really interesting because I actually hadn't picked up on a lot of the social commentary that they make
Yeah, yeah.
in these albums.
You can probably credit most of that to Roger Waters.
Sure, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
But then they follow up 2 years after The Animals, which came out in 1977, with arguably their second most popular album ever in terms of sales, which is The Wall.
Mm, yeah,
Double LP. So it was two records, both double
yeah,
sided. So it was
yeah,
just this
right.
big, thick record.
The Wall is amazing. That's another one that, like, for me, The Wall is the side of Pink Floyd I don't like as much. You know, it's
Okay,
like
could
it's
you
less. It's
I'm curious, could you elaborate?
it's more. It feels more of a rock kind of rock opera type thing.
I think it's
Uh,
probably the rock opera, no?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Whereas I prefer their stuff that's more dreamy. I think I found it when I listened to The Wall. I really loved it, but I couldn't zone out to it the same way as I could
It doesn't
with
take you to the beyond like the others do. It's very
no,
much trying to tell you a story.
yeah, it's very present.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, I remember listening to it and thinking this is like it is perfect, you know. Like I think what I really like about The Wall is that it does exactly what it wants to do.
Hmm.
And so for that, I don't like it as much as far as just my taste are concerned, but it's kind of like Dark Side in the sense it's there to do what it's going to do, and then it does it. And for some reason, you never get it's interesting how they do that refrain of another brick in the wall kind of over and over. It brings you back into this thing, and yeah.
It's very much, I see it as very much like the peak, brainchild of Roger Waters. It was really his baby.
Yeah. It also has one of the songs that I didn't realize was Floyd because it was played a lot when I was in Canada at open mics. There was a guy who used to do Comfortably Numb.
Mm.
Yeah, which is a great song.
I personally love Hey You. Hey
Yeah.
You is like the perfect. If you listen to say like Stones or the Beatles or like ECR, all these like rock bands that play on like daytime radio, they like perfectly fit, driving the top down on the country road during the day. But Pink Floyd specifically, the Hey You from The Wall is what you play when it's at nighttime, when you're driving
Oh,
late at
yeah.
night. I think like The
Right.
Wall's perfect.
Yeah. So, but then that was the peak, right?
Yeah, because uh afterwards there was some creative tension and drama that split the two leads apart, being Roger Waters and David Gilmour. They both say to this day they regret that it happened and how they both acted because it was like litigated in courts. It was like it's way too complicated for me to even like explain, but it became a very much a falling out between them.
Yeah.
It wasn't like anything mutual, like when the Beatles split up and ended their run. This one was very not good and kind of sad. But from the stuff I've heard is that they just finished The Wall and they just had four huge successes all in a row. And I heard that the band got together and they said, "Well, we have to make a choice. What are we going to do next?" And Roger wanted to continue making these rock operas, using musical albums to kind of tell this big overarching story, this big storyline that's very current, yet can be like applicable for future generations as well, to like make a statement. Whereas David, I think, pushed back on that. He wanted to say, well, no, I don't think we should I think we should keep experimenting and trying other things and progressing and pushing the medium forward, because that's what we are. We're progressive rock. We don't want to just keep making like political statements.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was really after The Wall that they had these creative differences, and then David left the band. And so Roger continued on to make their next album recording, which in my opinion is their worst album ever.
I think that's pretty objective, actually.
I think it's objectively their worst because I think like I go on the internet sometimes just to like see, album, like the Pink Floyd albums ranked worst the best, and this one is almost consistently at the bottom or like nearing the bottom. And of course, we're talking about no one's favorite Pink Floyd album, The Final Cut. How much of a fall from their peak of the wall.
No, but like even the album covers shit.
Yeah, there's
You know,
really
like
there's nothing iconic about the
no,
album cover of the final cut. There was a lot on the
I have
final
to
cut that
say
just kind of leaves you. It honestly feels kind of like listening to some of their older ones again. It
it does. It feels like I mean, I don't. To be honest, I couldn't finish it.
I'm not even familiar with the kind of the story that Roger's trying to tell with it. I'll be honest. This one
But isn't
is.
a lot of it offcuts from the wall?
I'm not. You know what? That could be true, but I'm not even sure. But there are some. That being said, there are some tracks on there that I really like. My favorite one being the opening one called the post-war dream, which is very much like
Yeah,
of the time of the moment where Pink Floyd was like, and all these rock bands were operating at the height of the Cold War and the Vietnam War, where
yeah,
the Western world was very, particularly in America, where they were very questioning and very dissenting of,
mm,
the turmoil at the time. And the
yeah.
post-war dream, that song really kind of uh, captured that for me. But that's probably where my praise ends for the final cut, unfortunately.
Yeah, start strong and then kind of yeah. Like I gave it a fair chance because it was on my. I went through all of them,
Mm.
and then got really hyped up because I was like I'd gone through like Dark Side and Wish You Were Here and Animals and then The Wall, and I was like, holy shit, these guys are amazing. And I was so excited, and I thought, well, it can't be that bad.
It
I
can't be
thought like
that bad.
yeah, they've done all this stuff, like it can't be that bad. I'll give it a fair chance. And I thought, well, maybe you know, maybe it's one of those things where maybe it's a good album by itself. It's just because they had all this stuff before that was really big, and then I couldn't even finish it. I made it like halfway through, and I couldn't even finish it.
Yeah. It's
It
kind of
was like
like it's kind of
it was
like
just like it sounded like a teenager, like being just really angsty. It was like everything that they nailed with The Wall was like if somebody else tried to do that, but they're like 17 and they don't. It's really
I kind of see the final cut and Roger Waters to a certain degree with mostly with this one is the movie director Ridley Scott, because Ridley Scott had all of these just hit after hit after hit of like Alien, Blade Runner, Gladiator, all of these like incredible movies, but most of the movies that he's making now are just kind of such a fall from that
yeah,
peak.
yeah, yeah. It's just kind of like realize you don't know how to do it anymore.
Or I don't
But
think that he
then,
just doesn't know it. I don't think it's that. Well, at least in Ridley Scott's case, I just think he just doesn't care as much anymore. And if he heard us say that about him, he probably just wouldn't care either.
yeah, you probably wouldn't care. Yeah, one would hope
He's already
they'd
been
make a great.
knighted by the Queen. He's already Sir Ridley Scott. So, what do us schmucks know anyway about it? So
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
anyway, but yeah, after the final cut, didn't match the critical acclaim or album sales of The Wall. I think it really just kind of made Roger kind of take Roger down a couple notches on the ladder, and then he decided to exit Pink Floyd. And then Pink Floyd was just kind of seemingly done for a while. The final cut came out in 1983, and that was it. Been there, and they came, they had this huge impact, and they left. Until, to lift the band back up, David Gilmour grabs Pink Floyd up, and they come out with their next recording, I think 5 years later, 1987, with A Momentary Lapse of Reason, which contains your favorite song.
Yeah, yeah. Momentary, and the entire album is great. I really like Momentary Lapse of Reason.
I
There's-
I love this one. This is
yeah,
where Pink Floyd really evolved into very much that very meditative sound
yeah, yeah,
that I
yeah.
am like incredibly fond of. I'll go online and I see this. I think this album gets way more hate than it deserves. I think it's incredible.
Me too. Yeah, me too. I think it's fantastic. It's well, I think it's like one of those unfair things because I think it's interesting that like both this one and the Division Belt, they're in such a different stage. I mean, it's like it's later, they have a new leader. It's like it's kind of I think it should be seen differently in some way.
I think
Uh,
David came back and brought the philosophy that he fought for with against Roger. I think
yeah,
he brought that philosophy back and really makes better use of Richard Wright on the keyboard than Roger ever did.
yeah, right.
The combination of Richard Wright on the keys, and then David on the guitar, they just like have this beautiful like duo ship going. And then of course when they
Yeah,
need to get loud and rock on, they have of course Nick Mason.
yeah. Was it I love Learning to Fly is my favorite. My second favorite on there is One Slip.
One Slip is my favorite on this
Yeah,
album. I just love the build up that it has, and
yeah.
then bam, here we go.
That was the first one you showed me. That might have been the first Pink Floyd song you ever showed me.
Yeah, it's like it's one of those that I never really hear anyone talk about, but it's like one of their hidden best ones. Besides Learning to Fly, a lot of people love On the Turning Away, which is more of like
Mm.
it kind of follows in that suit of Wish You Were Here, where it feels very reflecting and of
Yeah.
that very acoustic sound. One of my favorite Easter eggs that they ever did was in the following track called Yet Another Movie. I don't know why it's called that, but they sneak in the final scene from Casablanca
Oh
into
yeah.
the recording
Yeah.
where Rick and Elsa have like their last exchange on the airstrip before she flies off.
Yeah.
Where she says, "But what about us?" And he says, "We'll always have Paris."
Yeah.
I remember I was freaking out when I caught that detail one time. You can only get it if you're listening to it really loud or headphones where you can really get those like the small little details.
I mean, I love their stuff like that anyway. I love their little voice things.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they're yeah, and that's really cool how they did that.
Yeah, I think A Momentary Lapse of Reason, beautiful album cover, by the way. Like, I don't know
Yeah,
what
it's amazing.
the symbolism of what it all means at all. I have no idea, or what even the name means, but I just kind of love the way that it feels to listen to that album.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, after the final cut, it kind of feels like a back on track thing, but in the right direction.
You know what? I kind of have to agree. It feels like we're back on track.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Back
like
on the track
okay.
of, the stuff of Floyd that I love, and I think you love too.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
Which I agree with you in that. I think that's a lot to do with Gilmore. A lot of people hate on Roger Waters, right? Because he is kind of like he's kind of a dick. But
Yeah, this
at
is
the same time, like
yeah.
you
I
can't.
think he's an interesting artist, but I know
He's very
people.
interesting. I do think though
He's also an angry artist too.
he's an angry artist, and I do think that you can't deny the brilliance that he had in the earlier stuff. I mean, that's like it wouldn't be that without it.
Yeah,
But then there's that. I think that more magical side, that kind of meditative side, is more David.
I think Pink Floyd fans have been forever split on the directions the two prefer, but from the
Mm.
ones I've talked to, most of them are always leaning more towards the Gilmore stuff. But, we talk a lot on this podcast about separating the art from the artist, especially
Yeah,
controversial figures. I think we're at least still able to do that for Roger.
oh yeah, of
Even
course,
because,
of course.
I mean, you can't deny how freaking amazing The Wall is. Like, it's perfect.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I'm happy David came back with Pink Floyd after onwards until now is might be even some of my favorite stuff from Pink Floyd, which
Mm.
I'd like to get into their next and at this seemingly at the time their last studio recording, which came out oh gosh, like 7 years later after A Momentary Lapse of Reason, which is so like a huge hiatus. And this one is The Division Bell.
Mm. Yeah,
And I think
yeah, yeah.
people would cry foul or think I'm absolutely crazy, but Division Bell for me is like the peak of their meditative sound. The Division Bell doesn't quite take me to that place of like the beyond, like what we talked about with Dark Side, but it very much like puts me in that state of calm, in that state of
Yeah.
zen through most of it.
Yeah. There's some beautiful stuff on there.
Like
The
cluster,
cluster.
yeah, cluster
Yeah.
one, the opening, it's got this weird like I don't know what that sound is, but it sounds like crunching or crackling in your inner ear, but it's not irritating. I don't know
Yeah, no,
what that
very-
is or
it's
how they
almost
did
like-
that.
I don't know how they did it, but it's very like almost cosmic.
Yeah,
I
that's a
read-
good way to describe it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I particularly love Wearing on the Inside Out, where he
yeah.
uses like the saxophone player, and it has this very like jazzy but also kind of progressive synth sound to it.
Yeah.
I don't really know what the lyrics or what the song's about, but I don't care. I just love like the way it sounds, and it's again, it just like puts me in that state of calm. I think because this one, the Division Bell came out after the Soviet Union was abolished and the Berlin Wall came down.
Yeah.
And
that's right.
A Great Day for Freedom feels like it's all about that. Almost feels like a great awakening of liberty. I
Yeah.
also really love Keep Talking, which is all
Yeah.
about communication and how as long as we keep talking to each other, our bonds and our relationships, will always stay. And kind of the coincidence or irony is that the one of like the background vocals that they use for Keep Talking, they use a famous figure who couldn't talk or speak anymore himself except through electronically an assisted computer. And this is, of course, Stephen Hawking.
So, what's the story behind that? Did they actually get Stephen Hawking to do it, or
They didn't I don't think they got Stephen Hawking to do it, but they used a recording of him talking about the human being, human species capability to keep talking, to communicate as a big reason why we're such the dominant species on this planet. But Pink Floyd took that recording and turned it into something else with this song. For me, the best part about the Division Bell is called High Hopes. High Hopes is the last track on the last album, quote unquote last album, at least until The Endless River. Because what was it, 1994 this came out? This was like the last time people had heard from Pink Floyd for almost 20 years. So this was like the finale. And when you when you listen to High Hopes, it's the end of a saga of this like great dynasty that is Pink Floyd. For me, I think it's legendary. It transports me. That solo that David Gilmour does that closes out the album is euphoric.
Yeah.
But the lyrics have that very reflective quality to them, kind of like Wish You Were Here. It's very much like looking back on the past, looking over like your legacy.
It's that there's an emotional touch to that it's the last, because I mean it is the last, because The Endless River is just offcuts from that album. So I mean it is the last album, and it's like it's I like how you say that, because I think it's really important to put it in the context of that.
Yeah.
That it's the end of the story. It's the end of this big thing.
And yeah, I just think it's a perfect ending. And then, as we mentioned before, in 2014, they just randomly said, "Hey, here's a new one."
Yeah, right, yeah.
And this one's called The Endless River. And man, talk about a meditative experience this one is.
Especially for me, the first 4 tracks.
Yeah, especially the first 4. Really, the first one, it has that very euphoric sound where like I feel like I'm that guy on that canoe above the clouds on the cover when I listen to it. It sounds so beautiful.
When we scream and shout, and then we work it on out.
That weird recording that's like,
I think that's from a really old interview, like a really old one though.
oh really? Okay.
from way back, like in their early days.
And you must have recognized like the way he said it from when you listen to that song, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I love when you just make those connections. I think it's so
Yeah.
cool.
I love their stuff like that because when it happens in Dark Side too, when you hear them talking, and
Yeah.
for me, it feels like you're listening to another universe.
Mm-hmm.
Is it in Dark Side where is it Roger Waters and he's like, I don't know, I was pretty drunk at the time.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. I think a lot of it is just Roger just saying offhand stuff.
Yes.
I was dying, but dying all right. I think I was just drunk at the time.
Yeah. How can you eat your pudding if you don't eat your meat? Yeah.
Real Floyd fans will know what song that one's from.
Yeah, exactly. But I think I like Endless River so much because I didn't have this whole thing before. Because I think they were, like I that was the first album of theirs I was into.
Mm-hmm.
So
you came into the Endless River without some preconceived anticipation for it, right?
yeah, that's right.
See, I did. I went in with that anticipation because I was a Floyd fan, and I was like, suddenly like, wait, there's a new Floyd album coming out in my time. I get to experience this wave and what it was like back then. I was so ecstatic, and then I listened to it. It wasn't at all what I was expecting, but I still loved it because it took me to that beyond. It took me to that beyond place that we've talked about.
It's really special. It's somehow underwhelming, but then it's almost like just a different thing. It's like you get a little bit of their headspace while they were doing Division Bell or something. It's like you just get into that mode of where they were at. It's like a condensed thing of everything I love about the Division Bell. It's almost like the atmosphere of the Division Bell in some way.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense, yeah.
So that we came to pretty much the end of their official album releases. I kind of left out a lot of their live album releases. Like I kind of want to in this episode prioritize the studio recordings, which is really like the real artistry was for Pink Floyd. But I'd be remiss to and not least talk about they did their 50th anniversary remaster of Dark Side of the Moon, but Pink Floyd did do one very recent like official studio recording, but this one was more of an in the moment. This was just a single called Hey Hey Rise Up. This was timed around the Russian invasion of Ukraine, featuring a boombox artist, a Ukrainian boombox artist. It's solely meant to be there to kind of pay tribute and solidarity and to Ukraine. And I believe David and the band said that all of it, the earnings would go towards supporting the Ukrainians that had to leave.
Wow.
This is a controversial topic we won't get into on this podcast.
Yeah, sure.
Because as of this recording, the war is still happening.
Yeah, right.
But it's nice that Pink Floyd carved out, time to make something in, solidarity.
Yeah, it is really nice. It's a great thing.
Yeah, Pink Floyd has long been my favorite band ever, and they've had a huge impact on my taste and what I like about art. They always prioritize experimentation and really just they're in such their own lane across from all the others. You can't even compare them just because they're so unlike everyone else. Mm-hmm. I kind of appreciate that about them because I like to replicate that in my art and in my creativity. Like I want to be more experimental and progressive and operate in my own lane outside of the artistic cultural norms.
Yeah.
So I always just found that inspiring about them, and they really ignited that fire in me.
Wow. Yeah. They're a great example for that, I think. For, like you said, not just music, but for artistic work. They're true artists.
What is it about them that impacted you and your art?
I think for me, it's that beyond thing, which I think I can do more in writing than in music, because I mean the type of music I do doesn't really do that. But I think as a writer, I think it affects what I do, because it's like that hint of that thing that's behind.
Mhm.
And I don't know of
Yeah.
any other band or artist or group that has done that for me.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, there's no one else who does that particular thing. It's and I think just the scope of it being like, I don't even know what that is. It's like whatever beyond they're touching. I don't know what they're touching.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. The true artists,
Mm-hmm.
the rare combination of experimental and actually good. Like they're master craftsmen at what they do.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, this episode I was really looking forward to. This was when you and I first talked about starting this podcast, and even discussions with our producer early on, making this show about rebel artists through time. Immediately, one of the first ones that came to mind was Pink Floyd.
thank you. They're very special to me as well. But yeah. No, this has been a great one.
You've been listening to Rebel Artists Through Time. We created this podcast as our own act of rebellion against perfection, against silence, and to remind each other that we're part of something bigger. If something here sparked an idea for you, take it forward, share it, create from it, because that's what this is all about. Connection across time through art. We're so glad you joined us, and until next time, keep creating.